All right, this is where we left off last time, and I'm just going to mention a couple things here in regards to that last bullet point. This is something that is been a little bit controversial in some states, whether they allow it or not. The idea of a feed-in tariff system. So, for example, if you've got solar panels on your home, you generate electricity. Usually, it's not all of your electricity needs, but sometimes on a really sunny day, you may be producing more electricity. You're not home, whatever the situation is, that your house is creating all this electricity and it needs to go somewhere. So if in those scenarios, typically what will happen is it's like a two-way street that we need electricity, you're pulling it into your house, and your house is acting like a power plant, and you're feeding energy back into the grid or your next door neighbor or wherever else it's going. But you could be paid for that, and whatever the rate happens to be. So this is something that some communities or states allow and some don't allow it. Usually there's some lobbying going on here where the power companies, of course, don't necessarily want to be paying money out for somebody else creating electricity. But as far as this whole conversation for sustainability, it is something that you probably want to incentivize. Now, granted, power companies are maintaining the whole infrastructure of this, and that's something that does need to be considered. But the idea of homes and incentivizing homes to create solar panels on their homes and create more energy, sustainable energy going back into the system is something that probably should be encouraged. Let's see, get on to this next one. There we go. And this is kind of a schematic of the system. And this slide here is actually a little bit old, but it is interesting when you look over on the right-hand side, or excuse me, the left-hand side with that car. Think the Ford F-150 Lightning. This is one of the things they kind of talk about. If your power to go out, you can use your truck to power up your home. And yeah, that's a real thing that probably is going to be something where out in the future, where in the past you had this old system where the power plant produced all the energy and it just put it all out. But in the future, a better idea would be that if you had a lot of smaller grid systems that were providing energy coming from different resources, whether they're wind farms or solar panels or all these things you can kind of see in this little schematic that are all producing energy for the community, not necessarily, across an entire state or Southeast Michigan or whatever it happens to be. And then, for example, if something were to go down, then you can just tap into some other resource and it's all being balanced out and stored. So one of the concerns is with like car batteries is once their useful life cycle is done being in a car, what do you do with them? They still have a useful life and they can be used to store energy, for example, in your home or for a variety of other things that you could use these for. But you can kind of see on here there's a lot of different things that could change the way we use systems now. And this just goes to the idea of bringing all of these various entities or potentials together to move this in a positive direction to encourage a larger portfolio of energy resources. And you can kind of see on there, I'm not going to kind of go through all of these, but just the way we've always done things would need to change a little bit to ensure that we're bringing some of these other energy resources in to lower the carbon footprint that we currently are using in as short amount of time as we can. Okay, I believe that is pretty close to the last lecture. This is just some examples of some things that we could do on a very small list of things we could do for the future. But that's it. That's the last lecture, lecture 6 for chapters 16 and 17.